Ah, just feel like relaxing for a minute, just sitting here, and for some reason I just keep staring at you, and I don't understand why.
I think it may be the gaze in my eyes, bro. I think it's something mystical about my eyes. Not like on a Flintstone mystical, but kind of mystical. I what you getting all locked in.
Yeah, let's get into the show. I think this boy has been too much cabbage.
You can relax.
Ladies and gentlemen, batten down the hatches. We'd like to introduce you to the greatest combat sports show bar none. You are now in the Beatdown.
You wanna get beat down?
Let us now introduce you to your host, the Badger, and
Cinnamon stick, hot water, and agave. Breakfast of champions. Hey, let me get out the way so y'all can see our special photo behind me. She'll be riding with us all day. Do you know who this is, bro?
I can't say that I do. Go ahead and embarrass me. Who is that?
Oh, wow. I see you looking at the cleavage. Look into her eyes, bro. Look into her eyes. Maybe you'll realize who it is now.
It's a magnet, bro. I can't. I can't do it.
uh, one of the originating founding members of the Supremes, Miss Mary Wilson. She passed yesterday at 76. So wanted to give a shout out to her family. Prayers and wishes go with them. And yeah, just wanted to let people know, in case they didn't know, how beautiful this woman was. Diana Ross got all the shine from the Supremes.
Yeah.
Mary
Well, you know
Wilson at this age still, and Diana Ross I thought was the most beautiful woman in the world until I really started looking at Mary Wilson. I was like, at 76?
And listen, for those that don't know, that's a lot of looking for you. So, I mean, I guess we could get out of your childhood perversions now, move on towards the show. It's Tuesday, it's therapy. How you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling good. Got another shout out to the Schottenheimer family because we lost Marty Schottenheimer at age
Marty.
77.
Did he get it? But he got a chance to see the Chiefs win, right?
Not last weekend.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow, they got whooped. I'm tripping. Wow.
Really?
Yeah, he got to see the Chiefs. He got to see the Chiefs
Really,
the year
bro?
before that, and they
Really?
got the
We're
Super
gonna
Bowl now, so
we're gonna do that.
that
But
game, Marty.
he also put the Cleveland Browns back on the map as the coach of the Cardiac Kids. But unfortunately, Marty never made a Super Bowl. No,
Marty never got there.
he had some of the best teams that never make a Super Bowl.
Right.
Y'all remember the Cardiac Kids of the '80s with
Yeah.
Bernie Kosar,
Yeah,
Brian Sipe,
Eric Metcalf,
Eric
Kevin
Metcalf,
Minifield,
Ozzie
yeah,
Newson,
Ozzie Newsome.
Kevin
Wasn't Kevin
Mack,
Matthews on that
Ernest
team?
Biner.
Kevin Mack,
Yeah,
Ernest Mack, yep, the running back, Kevin
Yeah.
Mack, Ernest Biner, yeah.
I mean,
Hey, man.
and some big defenses. I mean, Bob Golick,
Michael Dean Perry, right?
Michael Dean Perry. No,
Yeah.
Michael Dean Perry was under Bill Belichick with the Browns, but Bob Golick
Oh,
played
gotcha.
defense, played nose guard for the Browns.
Gotcha.
You know, back when, and people like
That was-
Bob Golick. That's Mike's older brother.
Listen, that was back when they had that old Cleveland Municipal Stadium jumping. The stadium used to actually rock. Yeah. Good old
One of my
days.
best friends used to sit in the dog pound behind Big Dog,
Mm.
the big dude. He used to sit behind him as a teenager and a kid. He used to
Hey,
talk
man.
about how cold that stadium got, bro.
Hey, listen, outside of the pick with Raider Nation, who's the most recognized Hoopers? Probably the Dog Pound, bro. That is,
I would think they actually are more recognized. See, that's what you get. Slighting the Browns. That's what I'm saying. You can't slight the Browns, dog. This is what happens. You get dropped from the show. Now the producer got to let you back in. See, that's what happens when you try to slight the Browns. They drop you from your network, cuts you off, bro. Because the Raider Nation The pit, yes. But the dog pound was probably the most famous and most recognizable spot during the 80s and 90s until the real Browns went to Baltimore. Yes, I said it. And thank you, because we got 2 Super Bowls with them. Ain't no love lost. I'm a Steeler and a Raven fan. We can't stand the Browns on either side. So,
Wow.
but I will say, shout out to Ricky Feature and his family. He's from Brooksville. He played wide receiver, number 83. He played alongside Ozzie Newsome in those Browns.
Bro, I'm having a little camera issue. Give me 1 second.
This is why we don't operate electronics while on the cabbage. This is what we try to tell him, but we see him fine. We see him just fine.
It's the wrong camera, guy. The wrong camera. Relax.
But you're coming across on the right camera. I'm just letting you know. You know, the cabbage is in charge right now.
There we go. There we go.
Your audio was better, and now you're frozen. Yep, now we see you.
There we go. All right. So now, but yeah, what we saying about the Browns? Did we just totally lose that one? Because I like where that conversation was going.
No, I said I thanked them for sending them to Baltimore, and we got 2 Super Bowls out of it. Ha!
Oh yeah. Well,
You know.
sounds like what a Ravens fan would do, right? Typical
Hey,
Raven behavior.
listen, nobody felt bad for us when the imposters in Indianapolis got a Super Bowl. So bump y'all if y'all can't take a joke. So,
Man, you know what?
don't get me started trying to say Peyton Manning took Johnny Unitas's record. No, he didn't play in Baltimore. He didn't play in the real city. No. He played in the Hoosier Dome before they got the drum, Lucas Oil Stadium. Mary looked like she trying to hold a cigarette. Look at how she had a hand.
She was having a good time, whatever she was doing. Listen, now I'm finna dive directly into your comfort zone, bro. Bow Wow, WWE Tag Team. What in the hell is going on?
I missed that. Whatever you're talking about, I missed that whole subject.
Yeah, Bow Wow maybe teaming up with Rey Mysterio for a tag team to be tag team champions. Yeah, now look, now I say Rey Mysterio, you get all tight. What's going on, man? Bring it down for those of us that aren't in the know.
First of all, Rey Mysterio is about 90. He's still in good shape. He put more tattoos on thinking it would hide his age. His son is now wrestling, Dominic Mysterio. Or getting abused. But I don't understand the whole... WWE doesn't have to do this. They already have star power. What are you going to gain by putting Bow Wow in a match?
I mean, no, and to be honest with you, about 12 years too late. And that's being generous. They should have done this a long time ago. I don't know that he's even an attraction in our culture to where we get more eyes. But hey, who knows? Maybe. I don't know.
Unbelievable. I guess.
But I thought it was something that you...
Huh?
I thought it was something that you may have heard about because it came across my timeline, so I was curious.
I don't know how serious it is because my sources haven't cited that yet at all. But
Okay.
my luck, as soon as I get off, I'm gonna get a link to something and I'm gonna talk about it. So, but I will say thank you for breaking the subject so I can bring this up for those of you all who are a fan of WCW. When Ric Flair was the champion and they changed from the NWA's belt, which was called 10 pounds of gold, to the new WCW championship, which they called the Big Gold. The rumor is when Edge beats Roman Reigns at this year's WrestleMania, Edge is going to retire that new ugly Universal Championship and bring back the Big Gold belt to WWE, which is probably the only exciting thing coming out of WrestleMania right now. But that's what sources are saying. So I kind of feel like that's going to happen because they called this before Edge actually picked who he was going to go against. What is that noise, bro?
Bro, you have... I think there might be some wind coming through the door. Hold on.
You passed gas?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, he did say wing coming through the door. He didn't say which door. He's
But
always talking about the back
listen.
door. Go ahead.
Nah, you gotta relax with that, man. Hey, so since people often get you confused with someone that's attractive, how do you feel about what happened in the NFL post-game conference when Byron Leftwich was confused for Todd Bowles? I know they say we all look alike, bro, but there's a difference in shade and shape. You buying a reporter's gaff, or was that intentional?
It was intentional because it's all about Brady, and that's the goal, to keep it all about Brady. Matter of fact, Max Kellerman and Marcus Spears got into it this morning on ESPN, and I'm gonna get back to specifically what you were talking about, but they got into a debate on the greatest Super Bowl victory ever, and Marcus Spears is saying this is the greatest Super Bowl victory ever because you had a team that was an underdog who destroyed the other team. And Max Kellerman brought up a great point. He said, yes, but you're missing 3 starting offensive linemen, 2 tackles who cover your bookend, and a right guard. So how do you not take that into consideration? It was an interesting conversation because we were talking about that last night, and I was talking about that with a few people, and then for it to come up today. But Marcus Spears said, no excuses. You got to line up and play with who you have. I understand that, but you still can't call it the greatest Super Bowl victory ever when you're missing 3. A lot of people don't understand how important an offensive line is.
Man, those people are also tools. But listen, not to berate Fighter Nation because the bulk of our fans may not be keenly versed in American football, but I will tell you this. In order for it to be the greatest win ever, doesn't it probably have to also be one of the greatest games ever? Like, who's ever accomplished something in a team sport in a game where it was a blowout and everybody felt like you came away with something great? Even when the Bulls won all their games, there were moments. Some of those games were close. Brady beating the Chiefs without 3 starting offensive linemen, and in a game where just like everything went wrong for the Chiefs, the game never was in doubt, even when the scoreboard indicated it probably was. What was the score at halftime? 21-9? And everybody felt like, well, that's not a big deficit for Kansas City because they can get those points quickly. But the game still didn't feel close to me. Watching it being played, watch what was going on, the penalties and all that, it seemed a little manufactured. Now, what we have to give credit where credit is due is Kansas City may not have been ready, but Tampa was. So you have to give them credit for that. And you have to give them credit for putting together a great game plan. Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles had everything clicking on both sides. So I don't want to take away from the win, but the greatest win ever, nah, because the game wasn't even that good, bro.
Well, to address it, because you know when you throw little tidbits out, the one you don't think I'm going to grab, I usually grab onto. When you made a statement that games that weren't close, do you ever feel like anybody accomplished anything? Yes, 2 times. When the Bears destroyed the Patriots, even though we knew they were going to blow them out going in, it still felt like they accomplished something great. And when Doug Williams orchestrated that beatdown on the Broncos here in, back in, was it 87?
Might have been 80. Yeah, 87. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you because I think we're looking at it from a cultural perspective. The Bears, Bulldog, and the Patriots, we already know where that stemmed from. One, the star power the Bears had, and their young quarterback who had a little swag, what we call it now, back then in the 80s. And then you had Boston, quote unquote, New England, with all of this racial tension. It felt like the culture was pulling more for the Bears than for the Patriots. Now, what Doug Williams accomplished, that was a unicorn. There can only be one first time, right? And that was it. Now, when Russell Wilson did it feel like it? Nah, it was dope. We were happy, but it didn't feel like it, right? When Cam Newton got back, it was cool. I mean, he didn't win it, but even if he did, it would have been dope. Yeah, but it would have felt like Doug? Nah, it wouldn't, because you only get one time to be the first. So
had Minnesota gone when they flubbed up that game, I think it would have felt just as special with Randall Cunningham, Randy Moss, Jake Reed. Man, I can't remember the other kid's name.
Robert Smith was the running back.
Robert Smith, but there was another receiver. It was Jake Reed,
Chris Carter.
Chris Carter. Yeah, and Randy. That would have felt like it. I don't know why, because they did some special things in the NFL that year.
And two, Randall Cunningham was the black quarterback that never got his just due, right? So that would have felt special. I can agree with you there. But yeah, Doug Williams, that feeling would never be replicated, right?
Let me ask you this.
But I think if we get one in there now, the coach would have a certain amount of pride because of everything that's been going on.
And it also depends on how they come up, because Patrick Mahomes did it. No feeling.
Because Patrick Mahomes does not outwardly identify. I'm not going to say that. Patrick Mahomes
He does now in
doesn't come across as what most of us in the culture.
Let's be real, bro.
Kind of buy into. I don't want to look. We can't just say. We can say anything, but we just can't. All right, go ahead. Be rational. What you gonna say?
We can talk about what happened. He's always going to be identified with back in 2015 when, again, police were still killing black men. He went on social media and said, "If you would just stop resisting, just stop fighting, just stop." That was his comment. But again,
nobody knows him for that.
Whatever.
We know him for it because we're a little bit older and those kind of things resonate. But no one knew who Patrick Mahomes was in 2015 if they weren't recruiting for Texas Tech or playing in the small town he grew up in. What matters with Patrick Mahomes is what we see, and nothing about Patrick Mahomes on the exterior represents the culture. Who he seems to keep company with, the women he dates or his girlfriend, none of that identifies with us. So that's why it doesn't feel the same with Patrick Mahomes.
Except for if you watch State Farm commercials and they make it look like he goes to a black barbershop.
Yeah, I don't think he had them too. He had them last year, so
he had them this year. That's the new one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
when Russell Wilson fits more stereotypes than you,
you're in trouble.
Right.
Well, he also fits Sierra, so
go Hawks.
Yes. Go Sierra. Yes. He found a way to get in the cookie jar. Listen, there you go again. Daggone it, man. I'm gonna have to put Mary Wilson over on the left side, cause, bro, you keep going in and out. So. Unbelievable. Oh, okay, he's back. Did you pay your internet bill, bro? Or you on somebody else's?
I think my computer was having a virus when you started being a perv talking about Sierra. I think that's what happened.
Oh, so me mentioning that brought it up on your computer. You better stop.
Yeah, man, we don't tolerate that. We don't tolerate that kind of language, Ryan, man.
Yeah, whatever. You better stop doing that.
We're more refined on this end.
Yes.
Shouts out to Pornhub. I don't spend any time there, but maybe if we give them a shameless plug, maybe they can become a sponsor of the show. Shout out to Pornhub.
I didn't even know about it till you mentioned it.
There you go, telling lies.
Whatever. Is that a real thing?
As real as Google.
And there you heard it from the horse's mouth. Dag, man, we don't need.
Hey, there's a messy divorce. Well, not a divorce. It's just, I guess, more people being petty because feelings are still involved. Mike Breland and Deontay Wilder. Have you looked at what's going on lately? Oh, come on, man. You can't call yourself the president of the Deontay Wilder fan club and not know what's going on between him and his old boo.
Well, I'm not.
You got to keep up, man.
His old boo.
So basically, Mark Breland came out last week and pretty much just said that Wilder will never beat Fury, that his career is over, and that he's a broken man because he can't take responsibility for actually losing the fight. Then Wilder came out and acted like he was surprised and didn't know where Mark Breland was getting these things from. Why is Mark saying these things? So Mark Breland issued another statement saying that on training Deontay Wilder, after Deontay became a name in boxing, new members joined the team, and it got to the point where I didn't even have my fighter's phone number. I haven't spoke to Deontay alone in years. The things that I told Deontay had to be ran past JD's. Deontay has become untrainable because he was at the point of He knows more about boxing than all of us. So teaching a correct jab was not a priority to learn once he continued his knockout streak. So a coach can only teach someone if they're willing to learn. We would wait for the champ hours before he arrived at the gym, and Jay would inform us of his mood. If he had a bad day, we had to be quiet to not be on the receiving end of his wrath, according to Jay, in an effort to not be fired. Now, here's his comments about Wilder's accusations towards him. I never thought anything this insane could take place. I should not have addressed who had the water because that accusation is so asinine it doesn't even deserve a reply. Anyone who knows a tiny bit about boxing knows we're tested before and after a fight, so that's the end of that ludicrous allegation. Lastly, at the fight, just as many others, we had no cut man because Deontay won't need it. So I'm not a doctor, but I know blood coming out of your ears and Dave's eyes could be a brain issue. And power comes from your legs, and his legs were gone. So I made a decision to stop the fight, and I'd do it all over again.
All right.
So, as being the child in the middle of this messy divorce, my friend, how do you see this situation?
Well, the good thing is I'm the older brother. You're stuck at home with them. I can always go off on my own. Listen, I'm glad Mark Breland broke his silence. I'm glad he came out and stated what he had to, because in a normal situation, he wouldn't have to say anything because it wouldn't come this far. I would have loved to have seen this handled in-house, but what he says, you can see in the ring. So, all I keep saying is, I just want Deontay to get his rematch. If he gets destroyed in the rematch, he gets destroyed in the rematch.
So this is my thing.
I should have put Mark Breland out there like that without any evidence.
But this is the thing, bro. When this whole thing started and you decided you was going to go with dad and I was going to stay with mom, I told you that dad's drinking sometimes gets in the way. And Deontay Wilder's drinking got in the way. And I don't mean alcohol. I mean the Deontay Wilder Kool-Aid. He bought it and thought that he was better than what he was. And he had all of us fooled because we were all on board with him, knowing that what we saw were clear flaws in his boxing game.
Don't throw him under the bus now, bro.
Hold on.
Because when I brought this up about him, you defended.
Let me finish.
You're gonna learn today.
We all bought the Kool-Aid because none of us had been seeing a guy lay people out in the fashion he had been laying them out consecutive month, week, year after year. And we saw him and we knew he was rough around the edges, but we saw where, hey, like that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sky hook, it's unstoppable. That straight right hand, if he lines you up, it's unstoppable. But he was a flawed fighter. We love the idea and everything about Deontay Wilder. And I still support him. And I still support him as you do. But like I said, and I will continue to say, he lost that fight because that night he was not the better fighter. And there's only one thing he can do to restore that wrong is to make it right. And that's to get a rematch. Now, how he has to go about doing it, I do not know. But if he never faces Fury again, that will be the permanent blemish on his career. No matter who he loses to, if he loses moving forward, that will be the moment that everybody says that Deontay Wilder was never the same.
You done?
I'm finished.
Okay. So we can move on because, listen, when we brought this up, watch the pod. Hashtag watch the pod. Go back to season 1. When I talked about the limitation of Deontay Wilder, and this man right here said it ain't gonna matter because with that right hand, he can put anybody to sleep. Go back and watch the pod. I want y'all to go back to season 1. It's on YouTube. The Fighter Share. That is our channel. Go back and watch that.
But bro, you're making it seem as if I'm not saying I believed. I did. I drunk the Kool-Aid. I'm not saying that I didn't think. And I still think that it doesn't matter.
Watch season 1.
I still think that it doesn't matter, and I think that.
Here we go.
Hey, if he commits and he trains, I think he can beat Fury.
I'm just gonna look at Mary Wilson because this is some BS.
I'm just trying to figure out how you was ready to fight me 3 months ago, tooth and nail about this man. Now I bring him up, and now you silent.
I'm not.
You
silent.
quiet.
Why reiterate what I have said?
I want you to come out and say it again because you were on Wilder's side this whole time.
I am on Wilder's side.
Now they're
on Wilder's side about getting his rematch. That's what my point was. And when so many people, even in Tyson's camp, came out and said that man has been cheating. Yes, if so many people are coming out and saying that, where there's smoke, there's fire. In most cases, these guys had nothing to gain. It wasn't like they were in line for a title shot. It wasn't like they were going to make money off these interviews. No, they had nothing to gain. So, yes, I listened. Yes, it makes sense to me. Yes, I was rooting for Wilder to get another title shot or at least get his title back because of the what's the word, erroneous nature of Tyson Fury. Now, when your trainer, former trainer, who you fired, who you've smeared, comes out and says you lost because you were not the better man, that to me, that doesn't hold water. But I have to also listen to Mark Breland based on his experience with not just Deontay Wilder, but as a fighter and as a trainer through the years. So, give the man his title shot, his rematch, and let's settle it in the ring. Stop running from him and saying you want to set up another series of fights. Give the man his rematch. Hey, I wouldn't mind if they made him put his gloves on in the ring. Special situations call for special circumstances.
Okay, bro. I mean, all I wanted you to admit was that you were just on board with everything, but you glossed over, but you proved my point, so I appreciate it.
All right.
That make you feel better?
No, hearing you ramble on about it did, though.
So, what's your next point?
Hey, Demetrius Andre and Jamel Charlo going back and forth on Twitter. Do you care?
Yeah, I'd like to see the fight.
Between Jamel and Demetrius Andre? Not Jamal, Jamel, Lil Charlo.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Well,
you already
these
said
guys been going at it. These guys been going at it for a while, though.
You already said Lil Charlo's coming up to 60.
Yeah, I don't think he got to get the rest of the belts first. But yeah, I think that'll be interesting. But I see Andre. But this is the thing: Demetrius is doing the same thing Jamal is doing. All those guys are chasing Canelo. Now that he stopped at 68, you're gonna see some guys try to come down from 75 to get that big money fight with Canelo. So it'll be a log jam there. But I think Andre goes up to 68. So unless Lil Charlo plans on moving up, I think the more likely Charlo to face Andre is the big Charlo.
He might move up, but is he gonna stay there? If he moves
up,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the rest of the landscape at 160 is, as far as he's concerned, being on his own house side of the street or matchroom side of the street. I don't know if there's a lot for him there.
Here's what I see as a reality. If you move up and face Canelo, that loss doesn't hurt you because he's considered the best going right now. He's considered the best. So a loss to Canelo doesn't really hurt you. You can move back down to 60 and continue your feud with Charlo and get in that you still get a fight with Charlo at 60.
Maybe.
I'm just gonna look at Mary Wilson again because he just I don't know what's going through his brain, so I wait for him to come up with something else. Hey man.
No, it ain't that. I think that you keep saying that these guys may not stay at 68. Bro, that's where everybody's going. They're chasing the money. Everybody knows that Canelo is the guy at 68. So I guess for lack of a better term, they're all fighting for that number one contender spot. Or, and that's for 4 belts, right? That's in every belt, right? Everybody that's lined up wants they crack. I just don't know that if some of these guys ever get that shot.
You're right. There's some that are going to deserve it. They're not going to get it. Because Canelo has the power to pick who he wants to fight, and nobody says anything. And even if they do, it doesn't matter. Because he's Canelo. It's like Floyd. When Floyd passed over Kareem and went with was it Berto? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When he told Berto, yeah.
Nobody cared.
That was the last professional boxer Floyd Mayweather ever fought. Am I correct on that statement?
You're correct.
Wow. But we're not here to talk about disparaging Floyd. A win is a win. Undefeated
I'm just
is what
drawing
it
the
is.
comparison with him and Canelo. Canelo
Nah,
can do the
I
same
get it.
thing.
I get it wholeheartedly.
There's a female that could do that too. Like Amanda Nunes could call you out, and nobody would care if she lost.
Yeah, and nobody cares because they know it's not a competition. They know that I would just be in there as a training partner and hope not to get hurt. Listen, stop trying to instigate that fight. But since you brought it up, now you know what time it is. You know what time it is. Kamaru Usman.
Yes.
The Nigerian Nightmare, bro.
Yes.
We talked about, we did a breakdown or overview of Gilbert Burns. Now, the Nigerian is on deck. So what we need to know about Kamaru Usman, bro?
We need to know that Kamaru Usman is solid in every phase of the game. And where he does have deficiencies, he's good enough in other areas to make up for that. When you look at Kamaru Usman, you don't know how good of a jiu-jitsu practitioner he is because he's always in control. He'll take you down.
Dang.
So
Yeah.
you don't know what he's gonna do when he's on his back. He's like, oh, wrestlers on their back are out of water. Those are the old days.
Right.
He's been so long. Shout out to Nala392. He's been in the sport for so long and at the top level and controlling all of his fights. So you don't see Kamaru Usman having to do an arm bar or having to hit a triangle or pull guard because he's always the dominant factor in his fights.
Right.
And when people are like, well, he won't be able to out-wrestle Kobe Covington or outstrike him, so what's he going to do? So he outstruck him.
Yeah.
He uses his gifts, enhances them to cover his weaknesses. So we don't really know all the weaknesses he has. We know he's had injuries, and we know he has other issues, ailments that just keep lingering. But when he's in that octagon, it's like he gets into a trance, and he's like, okay, it's my time. All this pain, all this agony, I'll soothe it when the paycheck hits. And I know if I win this time, I'll get another big paycheck next time. So let's do this. He's an extremely aggressive fighter, but it's controlled aggression. And that's why it's hard to get the best of him, because you can't get under his skin. He can wipe out everything that's going on outside the octagon. And when he gets in, peace. It's over.
So, having been around Kamaru Usman on a few different occasions and even indulging in a conversation with him, one thing I noticed about Kamaru Usman is he has this air about him, right? It's almost as if he knows, because he believes that he is the best fighter in the world. I've watched this man engage with fans. I've watched him engage with the fighters. And it's just something about him, bro, where he just has this profound belief. Because of that, he understands what it takes. Coming over, being an immigrant, coming over the way he came up, trying to find his way, and then the grind to get where he is. Now, let's be clear. His grind may not be too much different from a lot of these guys, right? They all kind of come from humble beginnings for the most part. But it's something about being a black immigrant, a black African immigrant, growing up in the South, in Texas, struggling to find your way there, then getting into college, figuring that out, right? And then coming into South Florida, where you decide to come and train with Rashad Evans. it's almost like he's been groomed for this, so to speak. I'm interested to see in this fight how he manages to find that hunger to muster up, because we know he's hurt. We know he's a banged up. He's a Ferrari, but only under the hood. On the exterior, it's a lot of stuff going on, right? How does he muster up enough to thwart a challenge from somebody that, by all accounts, even from you and I, is a legitimate, a real threat? Not a Jorge Masvidal threat, where I might land a punch. Not a Kobe Covington threat because maybe you can out-wrestle me. No. He's going to challenge me in every facet of the game, and he knows me. How does the champ muster that up? And I think if he wins this fight, bro, that's going to be something that we're going to have to really give him a lot of credit for, because that is a lot.
Here's the thing. Nobody ever asked that question of Muhammad Ali. Nobody ever asked that question of Mike Tyson. Nobody ever asked that question of LeBron James. Nobody ever asked that question of Joe Montana. Nobody ever asked that question of Magic Johnson. Nobody asked that question because they understood that a champion is a champion before they ever hold the title. So with Kamaru Usman, it's internal, bro. He doesn't have to summon it up. It's there. This man has a hunger and a drive that's second to none. There are other people in the sport that have it, but it's not something he has to summon up. It's there. If you saw the video that they posted after his last win right around Christmas time, with him and his daughter playing in the living room, you can see that's where he's able to be himself. That's where he's able to let that other side go, that joy. And this is why he fights. So he has that quality time with his daughter. He's not going to fight too much more. I've never met the man personally, but just judging by how he is, what he said, he doesn't care about being the GOAT. He cares about making a quality of life for his family that he can somehow, some way, sometime, while he's still relatively young and can still walk, retire and enjoy. That's enough drive for a lot of people to go out and wipe the floor with people he should beat.
Yeah, and I get that, but man, them injuries, bro. You know, when you this is gonna be interesting, man. I think this is gonna be a hell of a chess game, like you said. I think it's gonna be a lot of mental warfare going. I think both guys are gonna have to dig deep. Nobody's ever. I mean, when you brought up Muhammad Ali and all that, I get it when he fought his sparring partners, but bro, when he fought a lot of his sparring partners, he was already past his prime. He was still good, but he wasn't at his peak. Kamaru is still in his peak. So it's just not quite the same, bro.
Bro, take the injuries, throw them in a bucket. Because whether he's fighting or going to the grocery store, he's still got them same injuries. He's been able to deal with them and be able to compartmentalize them to where they don't affect his fights. He had the same injuries when he beat Tyrone Woodley. He had those same lingering injuries when he beat Kobe Covington. He had those same lingering injuries when he beat your boy Gamebred. So they're not going anywhere. He knows that. He's going to have to get out of the sport for them to heal completely, if they can heal completely. So those injuries never even factor into his game plan. In his mind, he gets in there, he does what he has to do. He knows Gilbert Burns better than any of us. Now, yesterday, I made the statement that the champion never leaves his yard. And he left his yard to train. And I believe he left because he's going to have to make some adjustments for Gilbert Burns. And he doesn't want anything leaking to the people who are training Gilbert Burns, who will be inside the same gym. No matter what time of day you train, you're in the same gym. So he left the state to go to another gym where some security footage may not be leaked. or a janitor may not say, "Hey, I saw Kamaru working on this today." You get what I'm saying? Little things that most people wouldn't even think of. They become huge when you put them in this situation. Two fighters from the same stable, same gym. I hate to use the word stable because it makes us look like animals, and that's how they've sold us for years. Two fighters from the same team training in the same gym, things will leak. They don't talk about it on the outside, but on the inside, somebody has a favorite fighter and will tip off somebody else about a weakness or an adjustment. And Kamaru Usman just wants it to be level when he gets in that cage as to, okay, Burns may have added some issues or added some things to his game, but they're not going to compare what I've added to my game. I honestly believe because his defense is so good when he fights that he's able to turn that into offense, and his offense is a pressure offense, and that's something that Gilbert Burns doesn't have to deal with because, as you've stated, Kamaru Usman is as strong as an ox, man.
Yeah, and I want to transition into that as we dive into more of the nuts and bolts of the fight. Do you see it turning into a striking match by any chance, bro? Like, because we know that there's probably not a better wrestler than Usman. But what we also know is there's probably not many better wrestlers than Gilbert Burns. And because there's a lot of familiarity there inside that particular art, you can improv with striking. Do you see this potentially being a striking match like what happened between Usman and Colby Covington? Because the wrestling skills were kind of comparable, so to speak. So to watch that out, we're going to strike. Do you see that happening? Now, we saw Usman take some punches from Masvidal and from Colby Covington. So what do you think?
I think it's going to turn into a striking match, but for a different reason. Usman purposely went into a striking match with Covington because that's what most of the media was saying. The only way Covington could win would be in a striking match. So that's why he went, and he wanted to shut Covington up. So breaking his jaw kind of helped. He wanted to prove to Covington, I could beat you at your own game, kind of like what John Jones does to people. But with Burns, I believe if Usman is able to pressure Burns, keep Burns on the cage, take him down, rough him up a little bit, Burns may get frustrated, and then it turns into a striking match, and Usman is not going to back down from that striking match. I honestly believe Usman right now, it's his fight to lose, and it's Burns' fight to have to win. Because Usman, unless something has changed in his psyche, he comes into this believing this is my belt, my division, and I'm not leaving without my belt unless I'm dead. So you're going to have to pry this from my cold, dead hands. And that gives him drive. He'll take your will, bro. It's like, and I know people say, well, Burns did that to Woodley, but Usman also did it to Woodley. Usman did it to Colby. Usman did it to Masvidal, although I don't think Masvidal had the will to be in there. He just wanted a paycheck.
Right.
So it's going to be a battle of wills for real because they know the nuts and bolts of each other. But I
think there's two fights that we have to look at, man. He beat Damian Maia and he beat RDA. If I'm not mistaken, I think those fights were back to back, or they were relatively close. I'm not so sure that he may even go into this match. Now, mind you, Usman's 17-1 or something like that. Doesn't have very many knockouts. I think he has like 7 or 8 knockouts, most wins by decision, because he thoroughly dominates people. I don't remember a whole lot from the RDA fight. But the Damian Maya fight, I know he just kind of controlled it. He just kind of mauled him up. Whose jiu-jitsu's better than RDA's? I mean, Damian Maya's. So when I look at the familiarity of opponents or opponents that fit the skill set of the guy he's fighting, I look at RD and I look at Damian Maya and I say, well, those guys kind of might be like what Gilbert Burns is. So do we favor Usman because of that? Or do we say, nah, Gilbert Burns is nothing like those two guys. It's going to be a different fight. I don't know, bro. That's what I was just thinking about. I was like, man, I'm looking at his wins and losses, or his wins, only one loss. And I'm like, dang, them Brazilians on his track record, bro. They're on his ledger.
But he
so
keeps winning. But
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So he
fights his fight. He doesn't adjust his fight to fight your fight.
Yeah.
So if Gilbert Burns is able to get in there and make it his fight, then we'll get to see what adjustments Kamaru has to make. If he's gonna have to deal with the BJJ, if he's gonna have to deal with striking, I don't think Burns is gonna really initiate wrestling. I don't think Burns is gonna really try. That's just my opinion. Because if you're as great a wrestler as Kamaru Usman, the first thing you learn is takedown defense. That's the easiest thing to teach a wrestler. And he's been wrestling for how long? Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's not a... Now, if you get up against the cage and you need to... I could see Burns throwing some jiu-jitsu, some wrestling in there. But unless Usman, his tank is empty or he's just having a bed, I don't see Burns jumping into trying to wrestle him.
Jumping into the fight, huh? You don't see that happening.
Now, we had a question by Nala392. What about Israel? What do you think of Israel Adesanya? Well, we're gonna find out because it's coming up real soon. He fights Jan Blachowicz. So we love Izzy on here.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah. Appreciate the shout out, Nala. And keep the questions coming. Yeah, Israel Adesanya is a dope fighter. He's probably top three. He's probably top 3 or 4 pound for pound.
If he beats you, you gotta call him pound for pound the best.
Yeah. He's top 3. He's top 3 or 4 pound for pound in the UFC. Yeah.
Who's better?
Yeah, but he's not in John Jones.
Besides John Jones, who's better than him? I'm listening. Pound for pound.
Well, pound for pound, there are not many guys up in weight classes either. So pound for pound, then yeah. But I like Kamaru Usman. Gotta give Usman credit. That's 2 guys.
Khabib retired, so who else?
Khabib retired. Who else has been on the tear lately?
Cejudo retired.
He did. You might have me on that. If I can only put 2 guys.
Go ahead.
Cormier called it quits. Yeah, bro, you're right. And I was being difficult when I said 3 or 4. He's definitely in the top 3 or 4. But yeah, we love Izzy. All right, so bro,
I'm gonna come back to this. I'm just letting you know. Go ahead.
Okay. I had something else I wanted to run by you real quick before we got up against it. Dang it, man. I do not remember what it was. I think it was a fight coming up. Dog it, man. It wasn't a hooker fight. Who was it? I wanted to ask you about. Oh, I think it's a top rank fight coming up. Is that Oscar Valdez fight coming up? I'll bring it on tomorrow's show. I can't remember what it was right now.
I was gonna say I'm leaving the hooker alone.
What did you want to bring up?
Loading it in right now, so bear with me one moment.
Oh, okay. We got a special treat, I see. All right.
Yeah, and it goes right along with what Nala was saying in the question. So bear with me one moment, family. Let me get this thing put in. Bam. These are the only championship matches in UFC. And you look, John Jones is 14-0. When people start wondering why we call him the GOAT, he's 14-0 in championship matches. So you look, coming next, you got George St. Pierre, who people consider the greatest of all time. He's 13-2 in championship matches.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, but we know that people like to move the sliding scale when they talk about who's the GOAT based on wins and losses. I mean, we're having a conversation about Tom Brady winning 7 Super Bowls when he's lost 3.
Yeah.
So I think we're into this. We've gotten to a point where it's not about the quality; it's about quantity. If I go 100 times and only win 50, well, I'm better than you because you went 25. You might have won off 25, but I still went more than you. But that's kind of the mindset that people are developing. It doesn't make sense to me. Don't put me in a room with a surgeon that's performed the surgery 100 times, only got it right half the time. I want a guy that's probably done it 10 times, and he's got it right every time. So I don't get this train of thought, but yeah, that's where we are with it. And you'll get people that'll fight you tooth and nail on that, and they'll make a case that GSP is, and it's like, how, bro, when he's lost twice?
And he's only fought 15 times in championship fights. Jones fought 14, which is one less, but he's won all of them. All of them. So if he beat Stipe Miocic, now he would have equaled the number of championship fights of GSP, except he will have still won all of them. So this is, I just thought it was interesting when I saw it. I was like, oh, I got to put this on the show. I
actually saw that thread the other day, yesterday or the other day I saw it.
And I like the fact that Amanda Nunes, they put her on this list because a lot of times
Ronda Rousey as well. Ronda Rousey as well. Her run, even though it ended abruptly, when she was on the road, she was on the road. So that's good to see, man.
She fought suspect competition, people who were like 2 and 5.
Hey, we're not arguing that. It's just we going.
We are.
We're not. We just going by what we see on the list. We just going by what we see on the list. Whatever. That's all. That's a whole other show.
I think Amanda should be higher on that list because she's undefeated. You got people ahead of her who are like 9 and 6. Randy Couture.
The title says most wins. Man, so by that logic, she's where she should be.
Yeah.
All right, well, up against it, my friend. What we got?
Listen, I'm glad I remembered that was there because I really wanted to talk about it today. I think there's a top rank card coming up too, isn't it?
That's what I just asked. I think, is it the Oscar Valdez fight? Or am I confusing that?
No, it's the Oscar Valdez fight. But I don't know if it's tonight or this week or if it's this weekend. No! BJ!
I don't know either, bro.
BJ! You remember BJ?
Hey, yeah, Freeman. Man.
Yeah.
Shouts out to everybody from my old former past life when I actually was a contributing member to society. Shouts out to everybody back in that place, not to be named, but y'all know who y'all are. Shouts out to BJ though.
BJ, congratulations, man. I'm keeping up with you on Instagram and the family, and man, proud of you, bro. I'm proud of you. And you remind me of Israel Adesanya though. You got the same
level up, bro. Huh? Keep leveling up, BJ. Keep leveling up.
This man is awesome. He really is. He'll be the one you look back and go, a billionaire? Really? And he'll just surprise you. Because he has so many talents, bro. So shout out to you and your family, brother. Thank you for tuning in and commenting. Listen, bro, this is going to be an interesting week because it's the first week in months without any football. So ESPN is going to run every little football droplet in the ground. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, because we kind of talked about the trades that have already happened between Detroit and LA. But now you got some more. You got some teams that have inquired about Sam Darnold from the Jets. Do you think Sam Darnold has any value left in him? He's 25. He's been beaten around.
I mean, he's going to be better than anybody draft just because of experience. Now, how long he'll be better than anybody draft may only last a couple of games or even the training camp. But, yeah, give him a shot. He's a former first-round pick, so you know the physical tools are there. Maybe it's some coaching things. I mean, he wasn't in the best environment in the Jets. So, maybe you can brush that penny off and turn to a nickel or something. I don't know. It's worth it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I say it's worth it. Why not?
And do you read anything into the situation where the Cowboys put out a brand new hype video hyping 2021 season and Dak Prescott was not in it?
No, the writing is always on the wall. Bye-bye, Dak.
And finally, does Deshaun stay in Houston or does he get his release and go somewhere where he can be viable?
We'll take him in Jacksonville, but no, they're going to hold his feet to the fire. I would not be surprised if this thing gets way ugly before it gets better.
Yeah, I see it ending in arbitration, honestly.
Or a fist fight. Something will happen, though.
The Texans probably would wanted to end in arbitration before it went to a fist fight.
Agreed.
I mean, listen. All right, family. Look, shout out to Jomo. I know he wants to get on air. Appreciate you chiming in. He makes a lot more sense than you do, bro. So I appreciate when Jomo comments. I'm sure you'll tell us what's on TV behind you. Shout out to my mom, my pop. Shout out to my wife, my daughter. Shout out to my brother and my sister. Shout out to BJ, my dog, for watching us today. And the rest of Fighter Share Nation, we're leveling up. Stick with us.
Yeah, the fact that you can understand Jomo tells me a lot more about you than it does him. That is Iron Man 2 on the back. So what you're seeing now is Tony Stark and his boy Rhodey about to get into it. This is Rhodey's first time putting on the suit and actually using it. So interesting, man. But it's always Marvel going on back here with me. So that's one thing that y'all can look forward to. In the meantime, we'll see y'all at the same time tomorrow. We'll actually put on the shirt. This man will shave and we'll be a little bit more formal and talk with more sense. Until then, we'll see y'all. Shout out to Kodak Black. He's going to pay college tuition for the 2 children that were left behind for the FBI officers that were slain in South Florida last week. Shout out to Kodak Black, aka Big Billy Israel. Some of these young rappers get it right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. We out here. Fighter Share Nation. Peace.
And I can understand Israel. I can understand Jomo because he wasn't educated in Sebring, bro.